Right then, am I correct to assume that you're thinking about the Saturn 4 or Saturn 4 Ultra as your next printer? If so, good. Both for you and for me. It's good for you because both of these machines are excellent. I love both, but neither is without its quirks. But for the price versus the feature set, both came out of the gate at launch with incredibly competitive price points, and I would say are worth every penny. But should you spend more pennies on the bigger, more feature-rich model, or will you be happy saving a few notes for the cheaper model? Let's compare the differences. Hi, I'm Ross, and this is Fohammer Videos. Now, I'm not going to cover every detail of each machine because I've already done that in individual reviews for both printers. Please check those out if you want more info to solidify your purchase decision. Though, as I said, in either case, it's not a waste of money. The point of my videos are always for you to find the right printer for you. There is no best, just a best for each individual. So let's kick this off quick. Both printers have 12K screens, which aren't really 12K, and I've got another video on that, but they call them 12K, and they both have the same screen resolution of 11520 by 5120. And for anyone who hasn't seen my individual review videos and are turning their nose up at these being 12K screens when we have 14K screens in the wild, please don't. 14K is measurably no better than 12K. With Elegoo using 12K, they've done the smart thing by not charging you extra for a display resolution that you really don't need. Both printers have chip on board or COB light sources and Fresnel lenses, meaning the UV output is both consistent and sharp on both machines. Put simply, the quality of prints from both machines is the exact same. Where things start to look different is externally. Obviously the base Saturn is green and the Ultra is black. The power socket is in the same place on both printers, which is on the right hand side at the back. Above this is the power switch, and above that is the USB port, but on the Ultra there's also a connection for a Wi-Fi antenna. Now, USB socket and power placement may not matter to some, but if you're deciding between these machines, it's worth pointing out because it might matter to you. Switching the machine on and off is annoying, as you need to reach down the side to access the switch, where many other printers have the switch or at least a secondary switch on the front. What annoys me most though is the USB port placement. Having to reach awkwardly down the side of a machine to plug this in is a mild annoyance. You can't even see which way round the USB drive needs to be. But at least on the Ultra, you have the option of Wi-Fi. Chitubox's implementation of Wi-Fi functionality is still a bit buggy, and if you get issues, you do need to restart both the app and the printer, but it's still handy. And having this more often than not saves you having to go to the printer to, well, do anything. You can send and delete files remotely and monitor the progress of a print, or even view live video or download time-lapse footage from the machine. It's a great bunch of handy modern features that I'm honestly surprised took this long for any brand to implement. Though, now we've stepped into the new era, it's worth noting there's no Elegoo phone app, and something with the ability to just monitor prints on the go would have been a nice to have. But again, these helpful though slightly limited Wi-Fi features are only present on the Ultra. Both printers have an up and over lid, which you can easily remove if you want to rack mount either machine. But after this, we're back to a load of the same features. The build plate's the same, the VAT's the same, the PFA release film's the same. Both printers have dual linear rails and a basic lead screw. But the similar build plate on these two printers is still a rather unique design amongst the crowd of 3D printers in that it's got two levels. The bottom is the build plate itself, and the top is a box which houses the springs for the struts connecting both levels. And both printers are advertised as auto leveling, but just like every other resin printer which advertises auto leveling at the moment, it isn't. For more info on this, please see my individual reviews. Both printers do have pressure detection features to tell you if there are obstructions in the vat or if you have too much or too little resin for your print. Where the printers first significantly differ is in the print mechanics. The Saturn 4 is the very traditional approach: cure a layer, slowly raise up so the release film can peel away that layer, lower back down and cure the next layer. This typically takes several seconds between each layer, and this is dependent on the sharpness and stretchiness of your chosen resin. The higher detail ones typically need slower speeds. Now, last generation manufacturers swapped over to something called ACF release film to increase print speed. This softer, frostier material peels away from your cured resin layers much easier, allowing you to print about 30% faster using the same up and down mechanism. But ACF bloats print quality, leaves horizontal lines on prints, and doesn't last anywhere near as long as PFA, in my personal experience, which is something that some people have echoed, but others have said theirs lasts forever. So the question is, how do you increase print speed without reducing print quality? And it turns out, with a tilting vat. And yes, I know Elegoo didn't invent this technology. It's existed in consumer printers before and in industrial printers long before that. But Elegoo made it affordable. What this mechanism does is peel away the release film from one side rather than try and peel a whole layer at the same time. Think of it as you would a plunger on a smooth surface. Pull it straight up and the force is super powerful, but peel it from the side and it's quite easy. And this method has some amazing benefits. First, the time between layers is reduced. On the Saturn IV Ultra, it takes only 2 to 3 seconds between layers in fast mode, and I use this mode on some of the most detailed resins I have without a single issue. This makes the printer about 3 times faster than equivalent machines using the lift and retract method without any quality loss. This reduction in peel force also allows the release film to last much longer before you need to replace it. And additionally, because the speed is controlled by the printer itself, where you can select fast mode or slow mode in the UI, there are a ton of settings gone from the slicer relating to lift and retract speeds, and these are some of the most confusing settings in any resin printer's setup. Removing them entirely makes the Ultra a much better printer for beginners because, well, there's just less to mess about with. For anyone actually interested in understanding lift and retract settings, I cover them and all slicer settings in one of my videos, which, well, hardly anyone watched because, well, it's slicer settings and they're kind of boring. But if you actually want to understand how a printer works and what all of the settings actually do, then I thoroughly recommend you check out that video because it'll help you become a printing pro in like 10 minutes. But as I alluded to, are you actually going to watch that video? Do you even care to understand what these settings do and how they work? I'm going to assume for most of you it's a no. You just want a printer that does as much of the job for you as it can. Well, that's kind of the point again. With this tilting mechanism, the Ultra does a bit of that. Anyway, the most incredible benefit for me is that with a straight lift and retract, your final layers can sometimes introduce tiny air bubbles right on the top surfaces of your prints. With this tilting mechanism, I haven't seen a single one. Now, this mechanism does have a slight drawback. There is a gap around the whole vat area, which you could spill resin in just as I did. You do get a crappy plastic bib for the machine for when you want to remove the drippy vat, and if you do get a small amount of resin down here, there is a bit of a brim in the display area to prevent it dropping straight into the mechanics, and it's relatively straightforward to remove the front panel and just clean this out. But still, I would like to see future printers using this mechanism having some kind of rubber gasket here to prevent such an accident altogether. But that's the biggest difference in these two machines, and one that I would say is definitely worth the extra expense alone. In fact, I think Elegoo could have charged $150 more for the Saturn IV Ultra, and it still would have been worth it. Not that I'm encouraging them to do that in the next generation. The remaining differences come mostly from the UI, but before we get to this, it is worth mentioning that the AI camera only comes in the Saturn IV Ultra. As I mentioned earlier, you can access this via Chitubox, and the printer automatically creates time lapses of every print when the feature's turned on, though it actually only does this for prints that are tall enough for you to, well, see anything printed raise out of the vat, because the first many layers, the plate's just in the vat, you'd see that slowly raising up. It's pointless. But for taller prints, it's a feature, but this feature simply doesn't work at night because there's no light and the camera doesn't have a night vision function. Elegoo have also advised not to install a light yourself because this will mess with the AI function of detecting print failures. But this function can only see what's on the plate directly in front of it anyway. It's unlikely to detect a fail from the opposite corner of the build plate from the corner that it's at. And I honestly just don't care about the AI function, so I plugged a light in. But I do have to turn this off at the start of every print, or the AI camera will tell me there are issues that actually don't exist. So Elegoo are right, the light messes with the AI function, a function that I don't find particularly helpful. But moving on, the UI. The Ultra also has some great extra options and features, and I've seen a few comments saying that this is paywalled, and it isn't. This isn't just locked behind a paywall where Elegoo have decided not to give you these features. The control board in the Saturn IV Ultra is much more powerful. It needs to be just to control things like the AI camera. And this more powerful board also gives us a few extra features and a slightly prettier UI. The main extra feature is the exposure tester in the Ultra. To use this, you need to create a slice file with 4, 6, or 8 models evenly spread on the build surface. You need to imagine there are invisible lines of a 2x2, 2x3, or 2x4 grid across the surface, and if your model crosses these lines, the process won't work. And you can pick any model you like, so long as it fits within this grid from bottom to top of that model. From here, just slice your file as normal with your intended layer height for all prints, and then load it into the printer. Using the UI, you can select the print exposure test button a few times to change between the modes for 4, 6, and 8 prints across the plate. Select the one that you sliced your file for, whether it's got 4, 6, or 8 models on it, and import that file, then set the exposure time for each model in the grid. You can even make sure it's working by removing your vat and build plate, then watch the printer with the lid closed. After it exposes the number of base layers you chose in your slice file, you should see each model disappear in sequence. If this is working, do it again with your build plate and vat back in, then boom, done. Now you have multiple exposure times tested in one print. This will allow you to quickly narrow down the best exposure time settings at the fastest possible speed. This is a great feature to get you started, but also for people who change resin types often. So, as I said, both printers are great, but as I've mentioned in my individual reviews, the lack of an integrated heater is a bit of a letdown here. Elegoo do have a chamber heater, but this is a completely separate device and blows hot air up into the chamber rather than heating the resin, which, well, it's a bit of a letdown. I know a lot of people say, I don't need a heater, I live in a warm climate. But guys, I've said this so many times, consistent resin temperature is far more useful than just warm during the day. Even in hot climates, it cools at nighttime. If you're in a hot climate and you're happy, that's totally fine. I just want to make sure I'm spreading the right information about the importance of keeping resin temperature consistent rather than just saying, well, it's hot where I live. Like, I'm just trying to help people understand why this has value. Again though, if you're happy and you don't want to consider that this might improve your prints, totally fine, you do you. I'm just here to tell you what these printers do and ideally why they do it. But otherwise, what I still personally feel is an omission on this printer. I'd care much more for something like a heated vat. As I said, and I've repeated, both printers are great. Now, I would normally go on to this machine costs this much and that machine costs that much, but as my previous reviews have proven, prices of these machines are irrelevant because by the time you watch it, they'll be completely different anyway. So what I'd suggest is, whenever you watch this, click the affiliate links in the description and check out the prices of both printers. If the features of the Saturn IV Ultra are worth it to you for the price difference, get it. If you are looking at the Saturn IV basic model, check the prices, but I'd also recommend you check out my review of the base Saturn III and see if you can get that a bit cheaper, because again, the print quality is the same and the differences are minor to negligible. Should I do a Saturn III versus Saturn IV comparison video? Let me know in the comments. A couple of people have said yes, but I don't know that enough people actually want that. But if this video helped you decide on a printer, please let me know which one and what your reason is. There's no wrong answer. All my videos, as I've said, are dedicated to you getting the right printer for you. I want to finish with thanks for watching, and a huge thanks goes to our members who are on screen now. Please consider joining them. They get benefits like early access, exclusive videos, Discord roles, and I think there's some other things. Oh yeah, their name up in credits. You can see it right now. If you want to find something cool to 3D print, check out Loot Studios. There's affiliate links in the description and I make a commission for your sign up at no cost to you. But there's also freebies down there, so make sure you click those and check them out. You'll probably sign up when you realize how awesome the models are and what they give you every month. It's incredible value. Like, I'm not just saying that, guys. I'm still paying my subscription, even though they kind of sponsor me with affiliate links. But I'm still paying because it's worth it. Until next time, a friend in need is a friend indeed, but a friend with weed is better. Fohammer out.